Welcome to today's edition of 3 Minute Halacha. We've been studying the Malacha of Tzoveah, and a very interesting question that arises is whether or not it's permitted to sunbathe on Shabbat in order to get a tan. Now, of course, there are other issues regarding sunbathing on Shabbat, the question of modesty, of tzniut, and also whether or not that's an appropriate Shabbat activity. Does it really add to the spiritual nature of Shabbat or not? But when it comes to the pure question of whether or not it is prohibited because of Tzoveah, we do know the coloring of the skin is something that is prohibited. For example, the use of cosmetics on Shabbat is prohibited because of Tzoveah. That's found in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Shin Gimel Seif Chaf Hey, chapter 303, paragraph 25. We also know that it would be impossible for the Torah or Chazal to prohibit us from going outside on a sunny day where people could get a suntan or even a sunburn. But what about a person specifically going outside to get a tan or even to increase the extent of the coloring? According to the Minchat Yitzchak in volume 5, Tshuva 32, and the Aznid Beru in volume 2, Tshuva 30, if a person were just going outside and sitting in the sun for relaxation, it's permitted. But if a person specifically goes outside to get a tan, it would be prohibited. On the other hand, the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata in chapter 14, paragraph 44, and chapter 18, note 70 implies that it's permitted because a person doesn't color through any kind of action that he or she is doing. Rather, the person is just putting himself or herself in a place where the sun is going to have the impact. This, by the way, relates back to why Rav Neubert in his Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata also permitted a person to wear photo gray lenses on Shabbat, even though they darken when you go out in the sun. Others suggest, as you find in Torah Malachot, that because the process takes a long time, it's drawn out and has no immediate impact. It's not as if you go into the sun and immediately get that tan. Therefore, it's permitted. Another suggestion is that, unlike applying makeup, which is an artificial color, tanning is a very natural color, and therefore it should be permitted. That's the Nishmat Shabbat, number 215. In the Shuvot B'Marei Bazak from Eretz Chemda, they suggest that actually tanning should be permitted, even purposeful tanning, because it's impossible to say that the Torah or Chazal would forbid us from walking in the sun on Shabbat, even if a person likes to get a tan. And so they suggest that it would be permitted. But one other factor that needs to be taken into account is the use of suntan lotion. According to the consensus of poskim, it's forbidden to smear any kind of cream over a person's body because of a different malacha called memachik. That's found in the Orchot Shabbat, chapter 1720, and in many other sources. And therefore, you can't put on a sun tanning lotion to avoid a sunburn on Shabbat. And you can't say it's because of a medical need that you have to do it. But it is permitted to apply a spray liquid sunscreen on Shabbat, and it's not considered medicinal because its purpose is not to strengthen a person, but to shield someone from external injury. Very simply comparable to putting on a bandage when a wound is healing, as found in the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Shin Chav Chet, chapter 328, paragraph Chav Zayin 27. And so the positions of poskim today are wide. Some forbid it, going sunbathing, and some will permit it. Generally, the consensus of opinion is that it's somewhere in the middle, that a person's allowed, obviously, to get a tan on Shabbat, and if they like sitting in the sun, it's permitted. But to specifically sunbathe on Shabbat is something that would be discouraged.